Gilchrist Show. There's a disease in America called drug addiction, and it's destroying our youth. We are all aware of the war on drugs, but it seems to be a losing battle. Some think that legalization is the solution. Here are some comments from the public.
Question today is, should drugs be legalized? What do you think, sir?
I think certain drugs certainly should be legalized if you have a good control on the revenue that's taken in as a result of legalizing the drugs. What drugs? Yeah, certain quantities of marijuana if people want to do it.
Well, don't you consider alcohol a drug? Isn't that been abused? And during Prohibition, you got the criminal element developed, and they still exist today. Isn't that the basic problem?
It's true. Alcohol is a problem, too, but how far do you go? I mean, we've made a mistake, I guess, with alcohol, too. We're stuck with it right now, and I don't think there's really anything we can do about it because it's become a big industry. But if we want to keep going downhill and keep going and keep legalizing other forms of drug, it's never going to stop. So I think we have to stop somewhere.
Well, it's been suggested out of all the drugs, marijuana should be legalized.
Yeah. Yes. No, I don't think any drug should be. I'm more concerned with the effect that crack has on the body, the violence that it causes. A person that takes crack is not going to be a gentle person. A person that takes marijuana does not commit the violent crimes that crack-addicted people do. There's something that happens to the mind that makes the human being vicious, contemptible of life, and that's what accounts for much of our violent crimes today. Marijuana does not do that.
Suggested that out of all the drugs, marijuana should be legalized. This is less addictive of all the many drugs, even less addictive than alcohol. And the profits from this being distributed to other rehab centers.
Well, let's say I was a young man in the 60s and might have my own opinions on what you should do with marijuana, but I don't want to comment on that.
That means that you've smoked marijuana?
I have no comment on that at all. My children might be watching.
Marijuana is also prescribed for glaucoma to help your eyes.
Yes, that's true, and I understand that it works very well. However, that's a situation where it would be a prescribed drug. That doesn't mean that you could go to a corner drugstore and buy marijuana. That doesn't mean that I condone going to a corner drugstore and buying marijuana to go home and party that night. It does kill certain brain cells. It does have side effects. Aspirins have side effects.
What about alcohol?
Absolutely. That has side effects too, and I don't condone the drinking of alcohol. It kills brain cells. You're going to pay the piper in everything that you do. It's just a question of minimizing your risk. I'm not for the legalization of drugs.
So if you legalize drugs, you're going to have a bigger problem than what it is now.
What about marijuana?
Marijuana is a different thing than marijuana. It's not like that crack. That crack is the worst thing that ever been in New York, ever hit New York. And now they talking about ice. I ain't never said nobody know ice or nothing, but I know about that crack. That crack is something, you know? But even heroin wasn't bad as crack. Because the people used to get the heroin and gnaw, you know? And that's it. It wasn't the murder and doing things like it was now with the crack like now. So, I mean, legalizing, I don't think it's possible.
The only way to stop the drug problem is to teach kids and adults also that drugs aren't the answer to your problems. That you gotta look in other directions to solve your problems. And usually people want to find the easy way out. That's why they go to drugs. Sometimes you feel bad and you want to get rid of that bad feeling fast, but sometimes you just got to ride it through. You got to deal with it, but people don't want to do that. They want everything like that, fast.
Is this a personal experience? Have you have some friends that have a drug problem?
Well, I don't really have friends that have drug problems, but I live in New York and it's all around me. I could see it everywhere, so.
In 1920, when they had Prohibition, the mob just took over and it was just a total riot and crime was escalated, so they had to legalize the
well, crime is escalating now, so why should they legalize crack or cocaine or marijuana or crack or any drug?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out.
I think they should just abolish all of them.
If drugs, should drugs be legalized?
Yes, all of them.
All of them?
People that want to do drugs are going to do them anyway. So let's just make some money off of it. Let them just do drugs and die. I don't give a shit.
Should drugs be legalized?
No, they should not be legalized.
They should not be legalized. What kind of punishment do you think we should give to people who do drugs?
There's only one way to get rid of the people who do drugs, and that's to execute the dealer and rehabilitate the user. And that's the only way to get rid of drugs. That is the war. That's what should be the war.
Mom and Dad are doing crack, you're not going to quit doing, no amount of education in the world is going to make you think different if your mom and dad are doing crack. Man, build prisons with that $2 million, stick them in prison, or else legalize them and let them die.
One of the biggest tourist attractions in New York City is the Broadway Theater. Recently, there have been a wave of imported shows from abroad. Is the American theater in jeopardy? Will the struggling young actors and actresses find stardom on the Broadway stage, or will their jobs be taken by foreign imports? Here, Winston Gilchrist has this report.
Well, hello, look who's here. Darling.
Do you know this place? It's Times Square in the Roaring '20s, when Coke cost 5 cents and trolley cars crisscrossed their way down Broadway. The golden age of theater, when the lights shined bright and all visitors came to New York to be a part of the city's greatest attraction.
I can tell.
The Great White Way. As the 80s come to a close, Broadway prepares to usher in the 90s. New theaters, new shows, some from across the Atlantic. Gone are the days of George M. Cohan, but the lights still shine bright on Broadway. Recently, ticket prices have gone up to a record-breaking $60 a seat for Jerome Robinson's Broadway. Last year alone, ticket sales on Broadway grossed in excess of $85 million. Some say this is due to the sudden wave of imported shows from London and other European cities. A night on the town may cost more than it used to, but people are still willing to pay for their favorite shows. Beautiful. High-selling shows on Broadway? Let's find out.
The hottest shows we got are Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, and M. Butterfly.
I'm staying right here in the...
How does this compare to business in the past?
Things have been a little bit better in the past because the economy's been better. It seems people, when they have more money, they go to the theater.
But whether the economy is boom or bust, many people still manage to take in several Broadway shows a year. How are the shows in comparison to the past?
I remember Broadway when Broadway was Broadway.
Well, I think they're on average around the same. I haven't noticed any difference.
It's as good as the past, maybe even better.
On the other side of the footlights are the many performers whose greatest dreams are to have their name on the marquee here on Broadway. For the would-be actor, the work is hard and the days are long, with little chance at stardom. But the magic of the Broadway stage keeps the dream alive. How many auditions do you normally have to make before you get a job?
Maybe 2 or 3 auditions before I get the job.
I once did something for co-op education on the mountaintop as a guru. Very nice.
Well, I'm usually lucky, actually. I go to 1 or 2 auditions and I usually get something, which has been fortunate for me because it's very difficult to get a job here in New York.
So whether you're behind the scenes or in front of the curtain, the lights still shine as bright as ever on Times Square. Winston Gilchrist, give me my regards from Broadway.
Where do you go for peace and quiet? Surprisingly, there is such a place. I'm talking about Central Park, a place where everybody can escape to the great outdoors, to bike ride, to jog, picnic, and do many things with the family. Here is Michelle Gilchrist with this report.
Built in 1870. Central Park, 843 acres of natural beauty in the middle of Manhattan skyscrapers. What seems to be nature's gift is actually the result of hard work and dreams. An oasis to escape to in the middle of a busy day, a breath of fresh air. The first tree was planted on October 17, 1858, and by 1873, 5 million trees were growing.
Beautiful Central Park, full of grass, trees, and bushes, but built from the determination and dreams of one man. I'm Michelle Gilchrist, and this is my favorite place in Central Park. What's your favorite place in Central Park?
My favorite part of Central Park is Strawberry Fields. And no, that's my favorite part. I like this section at lunchtime, but after lunch, you know.
Well, this is one of my favorite spots here in Central Park because I can come here and sit and contemplate and think, which is one of my favorite things to do, especially when you have a lot on your mind. But the other favorite part of mine is Strawberry Fields because I'm very fond of John Lennon and the Beatles and their good music and stuff, and it's a very tranquil area. I think it's quite beautiful.
My favorite part is the way the boat side is, the boathouse. And I love it, and I see a lot of people going in and out, renting boats and a bicycle. I see a lot of kids playing around. I just wasn't there about half an hour ago, and I loved it. And I like to walk around the park, but that's my favorite part.
Andrew Jackson Downing envisioned this park in 1849. Mr. Downing drowned in a steamboat accident on the Hudson in 1852. This is his legacy. This is Winston Gilchrist signing off from Central Park, New York.
From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when we happen, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free